Morsarella and Point Blank, the show that we talk about the major issues of the day, and we go out on Point Blank. You know, I shouldn't say welcome to another edition. We've been away for a year. And we were away for a year for a good reason, or so we thought it was a good reason. We certainly didn't want to be talking about problems, to be second-guessing the government. It was a new government. Why should we not give them a chance before we start saying either things pro or con to the government? But we're back, and we're going to be talking now. It's been 1 year, and I think there's a lot to talk about. Or is there? Has nothing changed over that period of time? Tonight, we're going to be talking to Dr. Fadil Hassan, the president-director of INDEP, that great economic think tank in this country. And we're going to be talking about, of course, what that major issue is, the economy. Dr. Hassan, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you very much, James.
You know, I was going to lead into this last question, but I want to ask it first, actually.
Okay.
It seems to me that companies actually pay for everything at the end of the day in this country. So we just had a fuel price increase. Now, the staff of every company are going to ask for an increase.
Yes.
We've got high inflation, which means interest rates are going up. The company is going to pay for that. We have taxes, increased focus on taxes. Companies pay taxes. Individuals don't pay taxes. Individuals get their salaries net and the rest. How much more can companies take? Are they burdened? Are they coming back? What's the status?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank James for the new program that you have now. And then I think it's very relevant, your first question about the companies that at the end of the day has to pay for everything here. You know? But I think, to be fair, you know, not only the company, you know, but also we have to see economy as a system in which there are firms, companies, but also there are consumers. So I think if the economy is good, then everybody is happy, you know, right. Consumer and producer and companies. So, but if the economy, you know, is in the not good condition, you know, maybe we have to to see who bear the cost more, whether it is companies or the consumer, you know. So I think we have to see, you know, if the climate, the economic, the investment climate is good, companies coming because they are making profit, right? So if the economy is not good, of course they are going to be to lose, you know. So the question, I think, should be addressed in a much objective and fair, you know, in terms of the who is going to bear the cost of the economy if the economy is not good. Not only the firms but also the consumer. So now I think the situation right now, of course, we have to we understand that with the price increase, with the new draft of tax law, and then with the inflation, yeah, we understand that the company, I think, have difficulties, you know, to adjust, to make adjustment in terms of the cost, you know, to make adjustment in terms of the salary has to be paid to the employee and so on and so forth. So therefore, I think it is the government, you know, obligation to make things in a better condition in terms of the policy, in terms of the investment climate, in terms of the tax, in terms of the incentive, you know, and so on and so forth. So therefore, the companies can make money, you know, and consumer also pay the the affordable prices for the expenditure, and then they get salary, you know, adequate salary for their living.
Do you believe in the trickle down theory, so to speak, that, you know, start at the corporate level, let them make money, let them do well,
Yeah.
and then that will translate into money for individuals. That will translate into, good prices for consumers because more companies will get in there and be cutting each other
Yeah.
in competition and everything else. Doesn't it become a feeding frenzy where it's all going in the right direction instead of, every time the companies start to move forward, boom, we chop them at the knees and break them down again.
Well, I don't believe, or maybe the better expression is that I'm not the diehard of the trickle down theory, concept, things like that. What I believe is that we have to make economy more efficient, more attractive, in which the investor, the firm, can have a proper ways to do the business and then make money out of it, and in turn, also can contribute to the economic growth. That's, I think, what I believe. So in this regard, I think we have to have coordination and cooperation between the private companies, the government, and also the other stakeholders in the economy to make things more better, to make things better and then to make things easier, in terms of procedure, for example, the investment procedure, and then also in terms of the tax law, in terms of the incentive and so on and so
Well,
forth.
that's a good one. Let's talk about the tax law.
Okay.
The KABIN
Yeah.
is very active in writing and helping to give comments about
Yes.
the new tax law. The finance ministry took it and did their own thing with it. And if you accept the reports that you read in the paper, the way that it's described in the paper, it's become very one-sided from the
Yes.
finance ministry's point of view or the tax collection point of view. The burden then, of course, going back to the companies and the business community says, hey, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Yeah, I think what happened is that, the draft now proposed by the government to the parliament, create pro and cons, of the new tax law, That is because, in the process of the legal drafting, maybe little attention has been given to the socialization, with other stakeholders, with the business community, with the NGO, with the other experts, So, of course, there are some areas, some gray areas in the new draft of the tax law, For example, in that draft, the Directorate General of Tax is having so much power,
Right. And the
But
business community doesn't like it.
Of course,
Right.
But on the other hand, the government believes, or concern themselves that the business communities are not, honest enough, in fulfilling all the regulation and all the tax, that has to be filled. Therefore, there are miscommunication, I think, misunderstanding between the government and the business communities with regard to the tax, law. So, but the point that I would like to, to make is that I think that has to be, the understanding and belief, in both sides, with regard to the self-assessment of the tax, because basically the nature of the tax in Indonesia is self-assessment, and then when we have the self-assessment principle in that, so we believe that the taxpayer is an honest, right? So, and then also that's, I think, what the important. So, and the second one is it has to be an equality between the regulator and then taxpayer, So inequality in the sense that don't give too much power to the to the regulator, but at the same time, the taxpayer has to be honest,
Yeah. Okay, you're not an avowed trickle-down economist. Let's talk about bottom-up.
Yeah.
The Indonesian consumer itself, prices are going up, inflation is high. How much can they take? They're pretty resilient. I think the Indonesian consumer and the Indonesian people have shown themselves to be pretty resilient. But is there a point where they just turn around and say, we're not going to take it anymore?
Well, it is difficult actually, to predict when the limit is there, when the limit of resilience is there, I think, but right now, what important is that people understand the difficulties the government face, in terms of the budget because of the very high subsidy in it, and then when the government, trying to reduce the subsidy, of course the price will increase and so on and so forth. But what important here is that the way the government do the policy, and also the the percentage of the increase in the price of the oil, what I mean is that what the society can accept is that the sudden and the huge increase,
125%.
Exactly, But so that's what I think. Something that the people cannot accept, But when the government decided, they have to accept because there is no alternative,
Right. So maybe better shock therapy.
Exactly, yeah. So.
Okay. Dr. Hassan, we got to take a break.
Okay, sure, please.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be getting more into these issues with Dr. Fadel Hassan, President Director of INDEF. We'll be right back. You're back with Moore's Rolling Point Blank. We're back. We're so happy to be on the air with you again. And we're lucky to have Dr. Fadel Hassan, the President Director of INDEF, with us. Dr. Hassan, a few months ago, the rupiah started to go into a bit of a freefall.
Yes.
And it looked like the response from both the government and the central bank just wasn't there. And the rupiah started to head to 12,000, to the dollar. And we saw images of 1998 or whatever it was. Again, we were scared. Man. The business community was scared. What, in your view, I was asking all my friends then, not the economists that you are, I was asking them, what is the fair value of the rupiah? In your view, today.
Right now? Okay.
What is the fair value of the rupiah?
Well, I think it is quite difficult actually, to see the real value of the rupiah against US dollar. We have to see whether it is in the short term or in the medium term, But my, my prediction, my guess is that 10,000, rupiah a dollar is, that's what the real value of the rupiah right now, in the medium term, Why? Because I think rupiah value is determined by several factors, right? By the difference between the what you call it, the real rate, real interest rate difference between the U.S. dollar and rupiah, and then also we have to consider the competitiveness of the export of Indonesia, and then also the interest rate, So when we the inflation, I mean, of course, one another factor. So when we see that factors, I think 10,000, that's what the real value of rupiah right now, in the medium term, right? So.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you mentioned about exports. What exactly? I know that Indonesia exports a lot of natural resources, and I should use the word depleting natural resources because they're here today and gone tomorrow. It doesn't seem to be exporting more and more processed goods, but I may be wrong about that. I do hear more electronics in certain sectors that we are exporting. I guess my question is, I see China is exporting a lot of processed goods. Processed goods you make with your hands. They create jobs.
Manufacturing.
Manufactured goods. Whereas natural resources are taken from the earth. God gave it to Indonesia, and it's going to be gone one day, like the oil is leaving us. What does that say about the export competitiveness?
Okay.
And again, the future of the rupiah in that regard.
I think we have to first differentiate, the two types of the natural resources. They are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Like oil is non-renewable resources, but Indonesia also is lucky enough, to have renewable resources, such as what do you call it, estate crops, for example, palm oil, marine, and fisheries, things like that. So, of course, in the past, the non-renewable resources play significant roles in our economy, which is now declining, I think, and then starting in the 1980s, manufacturing good, and then which is come from the renewable resources, play a more important roles in the export of Indonesia. Right now, I think we see that the manufacturing good which come from the renewable resources has not important as export of Indonesia which come from renewable resources that has not been manufacturing yet. So the challenge ahead is that how the renewable resources that we have can be processed, can be manufacturing and then be exported, That's what the challenge ahead. I understand that we cannot depend anymore on oil for the future because it's going to be, declining, right? So that's why I think the focus has to be more on renewable resources, manufacturing renewable resources.
So the added value of
like for example,
making chips or something.
For example, the CPO, the palm oil, instead of exporting CPO per se, maybe we have to export like cooking oil, and then for example other derivative products from the CPO, things like that.
And that's very similar. I remember during Suharto's time that there was a ban on selling logs. What you had to do is you had to process that into furniture or whatever.
That's also now I think that's what bothering me, in terms of the consistency of the policy.
Right.
For example, in the past, we know that rattan, unprocessed rattan has been banned.
Right.
But now it's
and the furniture industry flourished.
Right. And then Indonesia actually is very, it's a big country in that products, Now they change the policy, allowing unprocessed rattan to be exported, So that's kind of policy change is not.
And we're exporting jobs when we
Exactly,
do that, aren't
yeah,
we? Because
yeah.
China is making
Making- and then-
rattan furniture, aren't they?
And then they export to Indonesia, because and then the what do you call it, the industry here, domestic industry of rattan here, cannot compete with the products from China, So this sort of thing.
Yeah. Dr. Hassan, as I mentioned before, I didn't want to, we have to give 1 year of
Yeah.
fair assessment. Give me your 1 year fair assessment of the economic team and the president with his economic performance. Your 1 year fair assessment, that's part A of the question. I'll give you part B. Should there be any changes at this point? Again, as a business person, change takes time also. You bring in
Yeah.
somebody new into a job.
I see,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe it takes them 6 months before they learn
To
the
learn.
job also, right? So should we be looking at change right now? Give me your 1 year fair assessment, and should we be looking at any changes?
Yeah, that's very interesting question, I think we have to understand first, the challenge that the government face, in 1 year, We know that there are a lot of external pressure, come to the Indonesia economy in the last year, For example, the what do you call it, the oil prices increase, and then also the increase in the interest rate of the Fed, and there are others, the global economy which is not conducive enough,
But they were all predictable. All those things were forecasted.
I'm coming to that,
Okay.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of external pressure, But to say, that only the external factors that make Indonesian economy is in the very difficult condition is not fair, because we have to consider also the internal response, the policy response that the government give, to that kind of pressure, So if I have to make a grade, to this economy team right now I think I give a C minus, C minus, which is
Pass.
it's fair, I think, C minus.
Fail. Okay. You're a tough.
Because-
You're a tough teacher.
Because if you look at all the macroeconomic indicators, so far, we see the weakness of all indicators in this 1 year of the government. For example, export is declining, investment, rupiah has been depreciated, the growth is not as high as we expect, and then the more important indicator also of the unemployment rate and then the poverty levels, is all up, except I think the stock, the stock exchange, and then also one other factor. So it's all the macroeconomic indicators show what do you call it, declining trend, So that's why I think in giving this grade, we understand that there are a lot of external pressure, but also we have to consider what the policy response
Right.
of the government.
And we shouldn't
So
just be responding, should we?
we
should
have
be-
to
we should be
anticipate
ahead,
it,
right?
yeah, anticipating also that.
Should we
That's what
make
the
any
lack,
changes?
I think.
Should we make any changes?
Well, it's actually it's up to the president
Sure.
because he has prerogative in that what do you call it, change,
Yeah.
But I think now all the people has come to the conclusion, that change is needed in the economic team, some people maybe has not have enough capability, to do the job. Maybe other has conflict of interest, and then the other one maybe has not performed enough, the job. So I think there are a lot of rumors going on right now.
Yeah.
But I think all the people, which is reflected in all the survey, in all the polling, in all the talk, everywhere has come to the conclusion that the change is needed in economic team.
Well, last question.
Yeah.
In terms of predictability,
Yeah.
we talked about the fact that, the government raised oil prices pretty dramatically. Big bang.
Yeah.
We've seen it also with the central bank, where the central bank raised interest rates 100 basis points, 125 basis points. Seems to be behind the curve when the trend is central banks should be ahead of the curve, like measured approaches, 25 basis point increases for an extended period of time, indicating to the markets the direction of future policy. What about the performance of the central bank? And I got to hold you to a 1 minute answer.
Okay, I think I have quite different opinion than you about the central bank. I think central bank has, especially in the last 2 months or 3 months, has been very responsive to the change in the policy. Yes, last time they were late, in responding to the change in the the interest rate of the Fed, But after that, I think they are very moderate enough, very responsive, and then they make change very gradual, The last one, they increase the BI rate very, very dramatic, But it's not because of the the nature of the central bank itself in the making decision making process, but of the pressure from